Hello, I'm Helen from Journal with Purpose and welcome to my latest YouTube video. Today I'm going to share a flip through of the completed pages in my Hobonichi from the last 6 months. I use the Hobonichi Techo Cousin Avec, which means that it comes in 2 journals. So this is the January to June that I've just finished, and then I'm just moving into the July to December notebook. And you can buy Hobonichis certainly in the UK from Art from the Heart, and I'm sure other places as well, or you can order them direct from Hobonichi, which I had to do last year because I missed out on the release of the Hobonichis when I was moving house. I think it tends to be round about September-ish that they get released. And this is where I do all of my planning. I don't do really any digital planning at all. And at the front of the Hobonichi, you've kind of got your calendars there. And then this is one of the sections that I find really helpful. So this is all of your months for the year laid out. And I book kind of dates in advance, the things that I know that are happening, things that I want to remember. And then in the evenings, I'll tend to write down just the main thing that's happened that day, whether I was filming, released a video, released something on Patreon, those sorts of things, so that over 6 months I get a really good feel for exactly what I was working on during each month of the year. And the stickers that I use down the bottom are from my Patreon printables. So I pick one usually from each month that I can put in the bottom. And again, it's a really nice reminder for me of which different bundles I've designed each month. And one thing you might notice at the top of here is I use the little sticky tabs with the categories. So yearly, monthly, and then a weekly one. And then I always just have a little sticky tab as well for my days of the week, so I can just move that on because there's no bookmarks or anything else in the Hobonichi. And I've been asked about these before. I use these semicolon brands, so they're just like your sticky notes, post-it notes. You just peel them off and put them on. So then each month I can just move that off there onto the next month's calendar. So I find that really handy just to keep those categories in my journal, because if you're not familiar with the Hobonichi, you'll see what the kind of structure of the journal is in a moment. And also semicolon brand, I use these, again, just self-adhesive, removable little tabs, and I use those for my dailies, and also when I'm flipping through books, magazines, anything I want to come back to, I use these all the time. If I can find them, I will leave a link to them down below because I'm definitely going to want to order some more at some point. The other thing I've been asked about in the past is what pen I use. I predominantly use a black Muji gel pen with a 0.38 nib for most of my writing. But on my dailies, in the evenings, for my reflective writing, I always use fountain pen. And I know some people have had problems with the paper. I think some of the more recent Tomo River paper, which is what's in the Hobonichi, I've probably been lucky. I haven't had any problems at all. So behind this yearly section in the Hobonichi, you get your monthly calendars, and this is then separated from your weekly calendars and your daily plans, which is why I find these so helpful. And here on the left-hand side, I write down everything I want to get done that month. Usually when I start a month, the list probably gets to about here-ish, and then either other things come up or I think of other things that I want to add. I don't necessarily get all of these done, but they're kind of there as ideas. When I set up my weekly plans, I come back to this list and see if there's anything I can schedule into that week. And if I've completed it, it has a cross. If I've started it, it will have half a cross, and if I've had to move it forwards to another month, I put a forwards arrow. If I've decided that it's no longer relevant or that it's going to be perhaps later in the year, then I put a backwards arrow to show that I'm going to move it on to a different month entirely. And at the beginning of the month, I write in any deadlines, things that are coming up that I need to know. And then at the end of each day, I'll perhaps just jot some notes down. So things like YouTube filming, work on tutorial, my accounts, things like that, food shop, closed course sale. So again, just a bit more detail than I have in that front calendar. And I usually just pop some washi tape along the bottom, just for a little bit of extra decoration. As you can see, my monthly task list tends to be pretty long. I use up most of the space on there most months, but that doesn't mean I get everything done. So this is the June calendar, the last one in here. And then behind that, you get to your weekly schedule. So I get to a more normal one when I was kind of back at work. So very much like the monthly calendar, I write my tasks down here, and that's where I refer back to that monthly calendar and put anything on there that I'm hoping to get done that week. And you then have a time ladder along each day. I only really use that very roughly. So perhaps morning and afternoon, what I'm hoping to be doing during those times. And often on a Sunday, I will pencil in what I'm hoping to be working on each morning and afternoon. And then in the evening, I will ink that in to kind of represent what actually happened during that day. And then I use the same little crosses and arrows down this left-hand side. And then at the bottom, because I don't tend to have plans that are going from 9 in the evening till 3 in the morning, I actually use that as my little meal planner for the week. So my weeklies really just look the same all the way throughout every month. I just find this works so well for me. I will sometimes flip forwards a few weeks if I've got things I definitely want to kind of block out certain days for. So I like knowing that I've got all of those 6 months there. The thing that took me the longest kind of time to get used to when I first started using the Hobonichi was that the monthly, weeklies and dailies aren't all kind of in order. You don't get your monthly calendar, then your weeklies, then your dailies for that month and then the next month. They are all put together, but actually I really, really like it now. Especially now I've got those little sticky tabs which help me find each section really nice and easily. And sometimes if I've got bigger things going on, I'll put some reminders just at the top there, so I've got them. And sometimes I'll schedule out P is what I'm going to be posting on Patreon, I is what I'm going to be posting on Instagram. Again, just to help me know what I need to photograph and film, things like that. Okay, so we're now nearly at the end of the June pages. I don't tend to keep this terribly neat. Sometimes it gets a little bit awry. It depends how busy I am, but it's just for my planning. So once we get past the weeks, we get into our daily sections. At the end of each month, I tend to use one of my Patreon printables because I usually try and do a cover sheet or something like that in the bundle each month. So that can go at the front of each of these. Because if you see here, what you've got is the different kind of months as they roll into each other. So if we get to February, again, that was from my printables, just a nice little welcoming to each month of the year. And if I flip through perhaps to days when I was back at work, so again, because this is right at the beginning of the year. So again, with these, you've got your time ladder here, and I tend to have roughly in mind what I want to do from my weekly planner, but this I actually fill out throughout the day as things happen so that I can look at how long things actually took me. And that's just really helpful for me in terms of learning how much I can realistically schedule into each day. And so then I put my tasks here. And again, crosses if I've done it, and those same arrows if I haven't, or half a cross if I've started it. And then each evening I add some reflective writing at the bottom, usually in fountain pen, and I add some little stickers and extra decoration around it, just to make it feel perhaps a little bit more welcoming to me, less daunting with all of those tasks on there. Lots of the stickers in here are actually cut from London Gifties pet tapes. And this month on Patreon, on January, we were doing looking at different lettering fonts. So I actually decided to do that all the way throughout the month in my Hobonichi as well. And I think I continued it into some of February. And sometimes I will add little bits of my own kind of watercolour, lettering and things like that at the bottom. It really just depends how much time I've got in the evenings. And that reflective writing, I'm usually just thinking about what went well during the day, what perhaps felt too busy, what didn't I get to start, what do I need to think about doing the next day. So it's a nice way for me to kind of cut off from the day. I have my regular daily journal where I make a few notes about the things that happened, but this is more me kind of getting into how I felt about things and perhaps see where any little pressure points are, where I might need some help. It could be things I'm worried about, things I'm so excited about, anything like that. So I'm just going to pop a little bit of music on now and continue flipping through each of these daily pages.
Gather wood, light the fire, hypnotized by blue and amber flame. Pour the wine, raise a glass, toast a memory, call to mind again. Thank you for the company, thank you for the words you had to say. Thank you for your honesty, not playing games some other people play. When the fire is burnt to ash, say goodbye and I'll be on my way. Gather wood, light the fire, hypnotized by blue and amber flame. Pour the wine, raise a glass, toast a memory, call to mind again. Thank you for the company, thank you for the words you had to say. Thank you for your honesty, not playing games some other people play. When the fire is burnt to ash, say goodbye and I'll be on my way. Gather wood, light the fire, hypnotized by blue and amber flame. Pour the wine, raise a glass, toast a memory, call to mind again. Gather wood, light the fire, hypnotized by blue and amber flame. Pour the wine, raise a glass, toast a memory, call to mind again.
Well, that brings me to the end of my Hobonichi pages. I really hope you've enjoyed seeing this flip through and that perhaps it gives you some ideas for your own journals or planner setup too. If you've got any questions or comments, then please do leave them down below. I always love chatting with you below the videos. Well, as always, I want to say a massive thank you to everybody who's joined me over on Patreon. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're doing really well, and I look forward to speaking with you really soon in my next video.
Pour the wine, raise a glass, toast to memory.